Now rock and roll.
Now the non-official. There we go.
Well, do-overs are good because I wanted to add, if there was a committee I would really like to be on, it's this one. This is my favorite committee. I think you guys have quite a task ahead of you, and it's just an honor to be here today. So thank you, Chairwoman Branchin. And members of the Assembly Committee on Campaigns and Elections, thank you for holding a public hearing today and allowing me to testify in favor of Assembly Bill 51, which seeks to require public notice of non-candidacy for incumbent local elected officials. This bill is a reintroduction of Assembly Bill 834 from last session, which passed unanimously through the committee process, the floor session. On the Senate side, it passed unanimously in committee process, and it didn't make the floor session due to that March 24th holdup. But the reason I say that is that there is some depth of value and merit to this bill. The crux of it is to prevent people from manipulating possible outcomes in an election. Whenever a seat is opened up and individuals who may be interested to run for an open seat don't know that, they may not run. It discourages people to run usually against a seated incumbent. So what this bill does is it forces local government to say, hey, this seat's going to be open, and it would invite opportunity for other people to run. And that's good for our democracy. It's good for our civic process, and that's what the crux of this bill is. This bill would require any office of record for non-state elections, school board, local, county, etc., to provide a public notice of an open seat election via an internet posting on their website. If the office of record does not have a website, they must provide a posting in 3 public areas, the same as they currently do now for open meeting requirements. So there should be no impact to them and their process. It's just one more thing to do, which is what they do. This notice would increase public awareness of an open seat that might otherwise go unnoticed. In addition, many individuals might be interested in public service while not wanting to run against an incumbent. With a public notice of an open seat, these individuals will have the chance to reevaluate their desire to run in light of an incumbent leaving office. Assembly bill would boost public awareness of open seat elections at the local and county level, allowing for people to engage in our system of government in ways they otherwise may not. Thank you again for holding the hearing, and I would be very happy to answer questions as soon as my colleague and tag team partner here, Senator Strobel.
Good morning, and thanks for this opportunity. I think Tim summed it up real well. It's really about transparency. It's just so there's no inside jobs where somebody who has the position arranges with somebody who wants to get it, that they're going to notify or not notify at the last minute, and really just creates obstacles for other people to get involved in the democratic process, and that's what this bill does. It's enhances that transparency, so more people can be aware, and we have more people running for these positions, and not just kind of a handoff to somebody else that sometimes happens given the logistics of the current system.
Fair enough. Are there any questions? Representative Murphy.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. Thank you, gentlemen, for testifying on this bill today. What's the practical nature of it? Can you cite any, circumstances that have happened that you can tell us about, so we can kind of get the real life aspect of this?
We didn't even talk, Representative Murphy, and that's a great opening question. On a personal note, as a seated school board member for a district I will not name, we had that very thing happen, where there was a 3-seat race for a spring election a couple years ago, and 2 of the people who were seated were not running, and nobody told anybody, nobody said anything, and it was quiet until after the January 6th filing period for the seats, all 3 seats. And when people found out after the fact, they were very upset, because had they known at least 1, if not in this case 2 of the 3 seats were open, they would have run. And that hit me right here. And I said, that's manipulation, that's orchestration, that's a devious practice that allows us, the senator had touched on, ways for certain individuals to maybe stack the deck for individuals they may want to sneak in at the last minute. So that's my first answer. It hit me directly, right at my local board race. I will tell you that last year when this bill was first launched, there were individuals, I think Senator Bernier had a story from the county level, where And there was another person who talked about a mayor position where the same thing happened. Everything was kept quiet. Nobody knew. No one was running. And all of a sudden, this individual that had been picked by a group of people filed their papers like 2 minutes before the deadline to get on the ballot and basically manipulate the outcome of the election. You talk about disenfranchisement. That to me is capital letters, disenfranchisement. So there truly is merit to this bill, and it prevents those types of devious actions from happening, and it will make everything open and transparent, as the senator also said too. So great question. I hope that answers it, at least on my part. Senator, anything?
Representative Murphy? I'm sorry, Representative Thiesfeld? Yeah, no, it didn't.
Just one question I would have. I noticed in the analysis here that it says the fact must be posted on the internet site or in 3 different locations. So sorry about that. It says in here that it must be posted on the internet site or in 3 different locations within the relevant jurisdiction. Is there any reason why that couldn't be an and?
Great question. Because not all municipalities have internet.
Correct.
But they have the requirement to post now for open meeting laws, open meeting notices by law. So we didn't want to make it and because it would force them to pay for technology.
Correct. What I would be saying is that they would do both. Because so the way it's written now, they can just put it on the internet site, right?
Well,
Site, right?
I think I'm reading you now. It's the and is if they didn't have internet capability, but I believe the intent is to do both.
Okay.
I think
I would just want to make sure that both of those would apply. And it wouldn't have to be 3. I mean, you could say up at least 1 publicly posted place in addition to the internet.
Well, then for those who don't have internet, you may only say 1 place when they should do 3. Law requires 3. Currently now they all do.
That's fine too.
Okay.
So.
But that's a great question because, again, the crux is not to push upon municipalities who don't have the internet online capability to have to get it. That would be an expense and it would be a fiscal. This is a clean bill and there's no fiscal and it's just another step for them to do what they normally do anyway. And it comprehensively covers those who have internet, those who don't. Do both if you can. Otherwise, make sure at least you do your 3 postings if you don't have internet. That's what this does. It meets the public notice requirement by statute.
Yeah, I mean, if we can talk, but if
You
you
get
need
any
help
questions?
with an amendment of some sort, I'd be happy to help with that.
Are there any further questions? Well, I have a question, and I might have to refer to Ledge Counsel for this. So if I don't file for non-candidacy, if it doesn't happen, what happen? Like if I forget to do it, how does that handle under this bill?
If the deadline for filing, when the deadline for filing occurs, that's when the posting requirements kick in. So failure to file would trigger these provisions.
So would that give extra time then for the individual to still file in time?
No, well, the provisions kick in on the deadline day. So if either you file a non-candidacy declaration or you fail to file by the time the deadline for filing the papers hits, that's when the posting must be made.
Gotcha. Yes.
Madam Chairwoman, that's another great question. I think what I heard you ask is what will it do mechanically to process? And what it does is it forces the record holder, in this case, let's go with the school district. The school district administrative office knows there's an election. They know how many seats are up, and they know if people are 2 or 3 seats, right? If they don't get a non-renewal notice or a declaration of non-candidacy, they will notify the candidates or the incumbents running, hey, you need to either file this or you're running again. So there's going to be some communication forced to I think, the Ledge Council's comments to make sure that something gets done. Either they're, whoops, I almost forgot, thanks for catching it for me, and then they file it, or if they don't file it, then they're off. So either way, that responsibility is going to fall on the candidate, and the Office of Record will make sure that they file or not.
Perfect. Representative Broussard, yes.
And this, thank you, I appreciate you all coming today. This may be a question for Ledge Council also, because I notice in the analysis, it says that you really have two options. You fail to hand in a form of non-candidacy, or you fail to declare a declaration of candidacy. Are the filing deadlines the same for both of those? You either file that you're not running again, or you file a paper that you are running again. Are they concurrent deadlines?
2 weeks.
I think that they are the concurrent deadlines, but of course you can file your non-candidacy at any time.
That's true. Okay. All right. So this would be triggered if you filed a non-candidacy form, or you just failed to declare that you were going to be a candidate and would not be on the ballot. Okay.
Correct.
All right. Thank you. I appreciate that.
Can I check me on this, Ledge Council? Second Tuesday of April is the date, and everything goes backwards from there. There's a period of time from the election back to the primary, back to when you have to file your candidacy, like the first week of January, give or take a couple days. And then 2 weeks prior to that, which is roughly the third week of December, is when you have to file your non-candidacy. So my understanding to your question is they're not the same. Your non-candidacy declaration would be the third week of December to file for, by the way, if you don't, then the assumption is you're going to run. Then you have to file your candidacy papers by January 3rd, 4th, 5th, whatever the incremental date is. If you don't do that, you're defaulted off the ballot. You're not on the ballot. So you pay if you don't do anything. And sometimes people do that. They just disappear and I'm not doing anything and they default off. So am I correct?
Yes, I stand corrected. The relevant statute is 8.21 Wisconsin stats, and I would have to kind of diagram it out, so I'll defer to the actually elected person to set me straight on that. I can, if any part of that is incorrect, I can follow up on that, but I believe you are correct.
Any further questions? Representative Spritzer, sorry.
Thank you. So, in that event where you don't file, where you didn't file non-candidacy and then you also fail to file your papers to run, there can be circumstances where there then is an extension of the deadline for other candidates to file, I believe. So, am I correct that in that circumstance, this notice would come as part of that deadline extension, so it would give additional notice for folks to have that extended opportunity to get on the ballot?
Yes, sir, Representative Spritzer, that's a great question, too. There's 72 hours of time added to the January date. If you don't file non-candidacy and you don't file a candidacy, there's an additional 72 hours, which would allow people to say, hey, nobody filed, we still have time. So, yes, you are correct with your question. Thank you.
Any further questions? I do not have any other slip. Does anybody want to talk about AB 51 here? Anyone else? With that, I think we're going to continue with Senator Strobel and then Representative Nealon for